It is good to be among friends or friends to be. I divide my world into two kinds of people, those that like children and those, well, I only talk to those that like children. So I don't know if there are others. I imagine there are, or we wouldn't be in the plight that we're in. My background is a bit interesting. I just didn't know that my dad's an Okie from Bixby, grew up dyslexic, poverty-stricken, the son of alcoholic and divorced, abusive parents. He made certain in the context of his life that we would never have what he had in that way. He married my mom. He was on the wrong side of the tracks. She knew better but married him anyway. They just celebrated their 52nd year of marriage, and all of their life has been spent. You can clap for that. That's awesome. All of their life has been spent using their very best to serve other people. That's what they do. That's what they do all the time, every day, and always have. So I kind of grew up thinking that was the way you conducted your life. I don't find it necessarily unusual that that's what I'm called to or appeals to me, because I was steeped in that by my folks and all those around them. So it's one of the interesting things about my upbringing. The other interesting thing about my upbringing, I've been in 14 different countries, traveled all around the world. As a missionary kid, you're poverty-stricken, but you just don't know it, because there's so many incredible advantages that you have as a missionary kid, being exposed to the world and culture and ways of thinking. I was also homeschooled and private schooled and public schooled in elementary school, homeschooled and public schooled in middle school, private school and public school in high school, and then I had private and public university experience. So throughout my life, I've had the opportunity to flow in and out of a whole bunch of different iterations of education. Now knowing what my friend Dr. Scott Beck would say, a way of poesis of human making that was very unique and beautiful. This formation of me as a person through and around and within my educational opportunities is something that I not only don't take for granted now, I consider it daily as a blessing, a gift from my Creator, something that so many of the kids that we serve don't have the opportunity to experience. Now, Ben could probably go into all kinds of sad and what I believe are catastrophic statistics, and you guys are a click or two away from finding out any of that information that you want. So I'm just going to share a little bit of my personal story by way of anecdotal evidence. This is not the empirical data, because that's all available to you. But my experience as an educator was out of Oklahoma Baptist University, coming immediately into the inner city, teaching at Capitol Hill High School, and being overwhelmed at the culture that was present in the building. A culture that is not gone from many of our schools, and a culture that is a terrifying place to be a child. It's because I think that in many cases, the adults in the equation have withdrawn from broader responsibilities and satisfied themselves with very specific, finite, narrow-minded approaches to what they consider the answer. I'm not here to do X, X, X. I'm here to teach math. I'm not here to do this and this and this. I'm here to make sure that they pass an EOI or whatever it's going to be this time next year, because we'll change our mind. That's what we do in Oklahoma every time we turn around. I'm not here to take responsibility for the formation of a human being. I'm here to survive this day, to turn in lesson plans, to make sure my kids are prepared or not prepared for a test, to turn in my attendance, and we inundate our educators with the things that they should be doing, must be doing, but not allowing them to do the things that they should be doing. So our children are in crises here because the adults in the equation have either voluntarily or consciously, involuntarily or voluntarily abdicated their responsibility to raise them up to be the next generation. Many of you have heard me kind of get on my soapbox about why I think we have a problem in education in Oklahoma, and I do think that it is a clear expression of our lack of genuine love for the kids that are not our kids. Our kids. So this all circles right back around to me in a very, very succinct way. I had an almost confrontational meeting with Dr. Nathan Meller one time over pizza. I wish he was here. I would remind him of this. And we're sitting here talking about education reform, and he sort of pokes at his pizza and he says, I shouldn't feel guilty if when my wife and I moved to Oklahoma City, we carefully looked for the best schools to put our children in. I shouldn't feel guilty about that. I said, no, you should not feel guilty about that. And he was expressing to me what occurs many times when we begin to unwrap and unpack and unwind the deeply complex web of issues around why our kids aren't flourishing in our schools in Oklahoma City and beyond. And when you become aware of that, you begin to feel defensive almost, like, I didn't cause this. This is not my fault, and why should I feel bad that I took my child and put them in a school that's an A school? I don't think we should ever feel bad about taking care first of our children. What I think we should reconsider, and what I think is beginning to happen with principals like the one that you saw at Shiler and others, is that they are taking responsibility for the children in the schools as if they were their children. And more and more and more folks are beginning to consider this a different and slightly skewed version, because I don't see it happening anywhere else in school reform. I see a lot of tinkering with systems. I see a lot of curriculum, and I see a lot of technology, and I see a lot of focus spent on what color light bulbs we should have in the classroom. But we don't talk about things like, are these situations acceptable for my own children? And if not, what must I do to make sure that occurs? So today what I would hope is that above and beyond anything, you are stirred to take responsibility for children that are not your actual flesh and blood, because the more often I have seen that occur in my little piece of the world, the more often I've seen communities begin to truly thrive. Yesterday I was speaking to someone who spent 2 days volunteering in a local middle school. And because I have become somewhat lulled by the positive communities in the schools that I'm working in, I forget how critical the situation is. And he related instance after instance of children who were showing abject disrespect for the other children in their lives, for the teachers in their lives, and for the principals in their lives. And I just anguished over that last night as I thought about that. What brings a child, a 7th grader, to the stage that they will, with vitriol and hatred in their voice, attack an adult who's asking them to do something reasonable, to use foul and disgusting and insulting language to a person who's chosen to teach them? What brings a child to that point? Because that's not the way they start. That's not the way they begin. And then what would keep an adult working in that situation? We have critical needs in our communities and in our families. And the solution to school reform is community transformation. It's not in more money spent, although we'd love some. It's not in a different curriculum, although we need it. It's not in more iPads, because they don't work, right? We will have successful schools when we have successful communities. Our communities are successful when our families are successful. We have to continue to think about this broader, more complex picture. With that, I'm going to turn it over, and I look forward to answering some questions in a minute.